All right, everybody, welcome back for our next session. Our next session is entitled First Movers Tell All. I think you're really going to enjoy this. It's we're going to mix it up a little bit. Instead of having a presentation or a panel discussion, we're actually going to bring up several of Ripple's early customers, and they're going to do mini case studies, walking you through their experiences as they've engaged with Ripple. I've been told it's going to be a little bit like speed dating, but just a lot less awkward. So I'm very excited to present one of my colleagues who will be moderating the session. Marcus Treacher is head of our global strategic accounts based in London. Marcus and his team are in the business of helping our partners onboard to the RippleNet, and he's in a unique position to guide us through today's presentation. Marcus, over to you. Marcus, right there he is. Come on in.
Okay. Right, let's on we go then. Colleagues join me on stage. Okay, so thank you for your time and thank you for being with us. We are going to be talking today together about the experiences of the pioneers of Ripple, the first movers in our growing network. And I'm joined here by a distinguished panel of senior executives who each have been driving and leading the charge in deploying Ripple around the world. So a very quick intro, and then we'll ask each member of the panel to give us a brief description about their experiences as pioneers, and then if we have time at the end, we'll open up for a Q&A session. So first, on my left is Richard Bell, who is the blockchain innovation lead at Santander UK. Thank you, Richard. And to his left is Nobuo Ando, who is the representative director of SBI Remit in Japan. And we've also been joined by Hirofumi Ahura, who is the General Manager Digital Innovation at Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi, and Paula De Silva, who is the head of transaction banking services globally for SEB. And at the end of the line, we have Dharmesh Desai, who is Group EVP of Yes Bank in India. So thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Let's start at this one with Richard, and then some of my colleagues have slides, some don't. So some talks will be descriptive, others will be with light and colour as well. So Richard, all yours. Experience pioneering with Ripple.
Great. Thanks, Marcus. Good afternoon, everybody. Richard Bell from Santander, and I'm the innovation lead, and I've been managing through our implementation of Ripple for the last two and a half years. And for those not familiar with Santander, we have strong market presence in 10 markets with over 130 million customers, and by market capitalisation, we're within the top 10 banks within the world. So we're quite a sizable bank. And yeah, I started the journey out with Ripple back in 2015, and I just got back from my honeymoon. I'd been away, had a nice relax, and then came back, and the Ripple kind of opportunity presented itself. And the thing I wanted to do to begin with when I started to look into this, I wanted to know what problem we were trying to solve. And so I did a lot of investigation upon what the problem looked like. And I started out investigating this problem by looking across, based in the UK, I looked across the major banks within the UK and looked at their service offering for international payments. And what I saw was quite a shock, really, I suppose. I saw that most of these banks were advertising, their proposition to their customers were settlement times of 8 to 14 days, which was quite incredible considering it was 2015, you know. Back in the late 60s, Buzz and his pals got back to the moon and back in less time than that, a lot less time than that. So that was quite a surprise to see that. And then to add kind of a little more complexity to it, we saw that people weren't sure necessarily what they would receive as well. So there's no transparency in the amount that would be received. So these were two areas that we wanted to try and help customers. And we could see it was a real problem because we could see that the fintech community were working strong in this area, and anybody who passed through London would have seen some quite aggressive marketing campaigns at that point in time as well. And certainly it was having an impact upon Santander. So we set off on the venture and investigated Ripple. And the first thing we did is we wanted to work out whether the problem was real and whether we could resolve that problem. So we built an internal application, an iOS application. We distributed it out to 9,000 employees. And this application allowed you to send GBP to Euro and also US dollar across the Eurozone and the US. And it allowed you to send it, and you would, on checkout of the application, using Apple Pay, you would know how much it was going to cost and when it was going to arrive. And it was going to arrive either today or the following day. And we were kind of working out whether, you know, our employees were enjoying this. And I guess the biggest feedback came, for me, on two parts. One, very quickly, our employees were using this app for mission-critical things. So people were paying their mortgages in foreign accounts by this app. We'd got one of the team members as well who was out in Italy, got speeding fined, and who was able to, pay his speeding fine off. But the real proof point came when we tried to close the pilot down, and there was a lot of internal noise. We had to extend this because people had suddenly found that was a really meaningful kind of solution to their problem. So that was one proof point. And secondly, also, there was industry recognition. Back in 2016, we won a gold award at EFMA Essentia for payments and wallets, and that was another recognition that we'd actually really struck on a customer pain point and we'd resolved it in what we were doing. So we knew we were on the right path. We knew that Ripple was helping us to be able to achieve that. What we wanted to understand then was, could it scale? Were we able to take the technology that we'd been using in a relatively small pilot? So we spent 3 months investigating the Ripple stack, let's say. And we investigated it from a compliance perspective, account controls, information security. It was a really thorough piece of work. And at the end of that, we concluded that we thought it was. So the Santander Group started to then adopt the Ripple technology in solving its international payments problem. So that was back in January this year. And where we are now is we are within 4 of our major markets. We are investigating, well, beyond investigating, we're doing implementations on retail, on corporate, and also on wholesale-based propositions. And the UK market is taking the lead upon these, and we're expecting our first proposition to be rolled out later on this year, which is GBP clearing. So we're expecting that later on this year, and, which has been tremendous progress. I think we've worked hard. We've worked hard in unison with Ripple to get there, and many other banks that make up the community. So we're pleased with that. And I think one of the things that Ripple were keen for us to talk about as well while we're up here is, what have we learned and what could we pass on as experience to other banks. And I think the big piece of advice I would give to anybody in the curious stage rather than the committed stage of their journey is, if you're going to get involved in proof of concepts, then the account controls, the compliance guys, they're forced into making difficult decisions in new technologies when you're starting out. And if you're involved in a pilot, often that's dealt with by the technology department, and these guys don't get the opportunity to go through the learning in a sandbox. And so, we were fortunate we got our guys involved very early. So when it came to understanding the difference between Bitcoin and Ripple, they were there. They really, it wasn't difficult at all. And likewise, when we start to think about, different ledger systems and reconciling different ledger systems, again, when we moved to a production system, we were very clear about what that looked like. That's where we are with Santander.
Richard, thank you. It's very helpful. Hear from Nubera, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ando from SBI Remit. And financial division of the SoftBank spun off and to become SBI. And SBI currently has the largest internet online securities brokerage house and the largest in Japan online banking and insurance company, and the largest venture capital, and the second largest something, and third largest something. So we have around 80 companies, which I cannot explain all of it. And 99% of SBI's customers are Japanese, but SBI Remit is a very different animal. And 90% of our customers, out of the 350,000 members, foreigners living in Japan. Then I must tell you why SBI started this kind of business is Japan is a very aging country. Demographic-wise, really, lower part of the younger generations are lacking year by year or minutes by minutes. Likewise, I'm aging as well. And the same situation is in Korea and also Taiwan. So, but on the other hand, foreign-born people's population in Japan is only around 1.2% of whole population. Whole population in Japan is 120 million. And as you are very well aware of the fact that the European countries introduced immigrants very rapidly during 80s and 90s. And so on average, foreign-born residents population in European countries around 13% to 14%. And we had a belief that the current foreign population is too small for our labor shortage and also pension scheme as well. So this is a major reason why we launched this SBI Remit. So from the beginning, our focus was on the foreign people. Sending money home. Then it is very interesting, it was foreign business for me as well. But we realized quickly how they like to send the money safely and also speedily and economically. And the banks are the place which are very difficult place for foreign people to step in, And the banks cannot make money out of that. And not only financially, but thinking about compliance risk they must take. So we thought there is a place for us to be in. So at the moment, the first month, it was December 2010, our monthly transactions were, I remember well, 43. And most of those were made by our staff and their friends. No, we couldn't take any advantage of SBI Group's clientele, which are all Japanese. So, but at the moment, we are handling around 140,000 transactions per month, or around 140 million US dollars per month. So compared to the first 43 transactions, it's a big leap. Then, but please think, I said only 1.2% is a foreign-born residents in Japan, and I don't know, but at least mathematically, we need European level of the new population, younger. So if it increases by 10 times in 5 years or 10 years, but we believe this business is still growing in Japan. And likewise, we are launching the business in Korea next November. So Ripple was the thing which we were really seeking for. You know how desperately those people want to send the money quickly and safely. And our experience of using Ripple is first impression was very quick, the lightning quick. 6 or 7 seconds, our settlement people were upset about the goodness. So this is our experience as a first user of Ripple. Thank you very much.
That's super, thank you. Very helpful, thank you. Let's hear from Hirofumi-san of Bank Tokyo Mitsubishi with the clicker, hopefully. Good, thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Hirofumi Aihara. I'm leading all fintech initiatives of MUFG, which is the largest financial institution in Japan, consisting of commercial banking, trust banking, credit card, security, and so on and so forth. And we are serving 40 million customers' accounts all over the world with 5+ countries footprint. So in terms of, I'm leading fintech or innovation initiatives in terms of the payment, blockchain, AI, artificial intelligence, and robotics, and so on and so forth. In terms of the payment, one of our big challenges is cross-border payment. So as you know, we are serving a lot of clients to have a cross-border payment. However, due to some compliance issues or other issues, so we need to ask customers to take some time, over 1 week, to settle the payment. So also, the cost is very high from the customer point of view. So from BTM perspective, we would like to have some alternative solution as SWIFT to provide more cheaper, faster payment for our customers. And also, in customer side, we hear that sometimes, of course, we are providing pooling services or cash management services for our client to provide intraday balance or end balance. However, sometimes our customer needs to have real-time payment after cut-off time of our cash management systems. So that is a background or motivation to consider Ripple payment. So you can see our future view. Now we are in the phase to develop a Ripple system within BTMU. And also we have subsidiary in Thailand called Krungsri, Bank of Ayutthaya, which goes live, Thai and Lao payment using Ripple. So in our view, our next step will connect BTMU payment platform with our subsidiaries in US, Mitsubishi UFJ Union Bank, as well as Krungsri in Thailand to provide cross-border payment to our customers. And also, internally, we have internal platform to make payment, inter-office payment. Yeah, we are not sending message to SWIFT in case of the inter-office payment. However, it is pretty much big burden and a big cost for MUFG. So other consideration is to move this kind of inter-office payment platform from our internal to Ripple. And lastly, yeah, you can see that our future view. So that is a current idea of MUFG.
Thank you. It's certainly very extensive in terms of the roadmap and the plan. You finished and done? So we hand over to Paula. Mm-hmm. Talking about SEB and your experience as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. We are SEB, a bank up in the Nordic region with a reach across the globe for our customers. We have home markets up in the Nordics as well as Germany and also the UK. But we serve those customers across the globe, so we do payments in 180 or so countries. And as everybody else has said, we need a fast and much cheaper solution than we have today. And we decided to look into, while all the customers actually need that solution, we needed to fix most of the pain points were actually found in the corporate space. even though most of the use cases were around retail, as we've heard, we thought that we would go for the larger corporates that transfer money from Sweden to the US primarily, and need a fast service. And therefore, we explored together with Ripple how to do that. And in 2014, it sounds like a short time, but it's a long time in this world. And we put on a real big effort, I would say, to try to internally work together between business and IT to explore the blockchain. And as somebody said here as well, when it was clear that Bitcoin and blockchain is not the same, then that was an easier ride. And ever since, actually, our IT department has even made a film about how to integrate the Ripple solution with our legacy ledgers, and are pretty proud about that as well. And that made a catch-up effect. But we actually put it in place in only a few months, and the discussion took maybe a couple of years to get through. But now we see it as quite successful, and we are launching several customers on the platform. We've been live since May, from, as I said, from Sweden to the US. And one fun thing was that the first payment that was sent through the Ripple protocol was, it just disappeared. It went in and it didn't come out. So we were sitting there, 30 minutes it took. We couldn't understand what had happened. And it turned out that we actually had a bug in our AML system that we've never discovered, because there was no need and no rush, because the payments took hours and days, and as you say, weeks. So now we are not down to 6 seconds, but to 9 seconds. So we are quite happy about that. And of course, most of the customers you talk to, they would like to embark on this journey immediately. The challenge being that we still have all the legacy payment systems left, and now we've added one more ledger. So the challenge will be, of course, to go into the consolidation space and how you can migrate over and so forth, and to not run parallel platforms for as short as we possibly can do. And then eventually do it outside the SB network. We are looking into reverse flows now, and then also to the external world. But the fun part has been that, how can you possibly download something for free, so to speak, in this very complex world, even though there is nothing that is for free in total. But it's pretty impressive and very quick, I must say. So we've had a fantastic collaboration on expanding our own horizons on how things can be done. But migrating from the monolith that payments are today into this also needs new processes and so forth in the bank. But we are pretty happy about what we've done so far, and want to continue.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Shandine. It's also great to you describe the corporate side as well as the retail side, covering both sides of the equation, if you like. Mm-hmm. And the final speaker we have here is Dharmesh, and explain where you are in the process and how it's looking.
So for a lot of people who do not know about the bank, and I'll quickly introduce Yes Bank. So I represent Yes Bank. We are the 4th largest private sector bank in India. We have 1,000 branches in India, 20,000 employees. And India is a large country. So India houses around 15% of the world's population. I take care of the global Indian banking business, which is banking for needs of Indians who are outside of India. And that's also a large market. Just to give you some statistics, as per World Bank data, Indian migrants who are settled across the globe send close to $70 billion every year back to India. And this is a sizable, big market, and they send more money than even Chinese back to India. And this is all retail individual payments. A good 50-60% of the payments are for the family maintenance in India. So the guys working outside, you have family back in India, and there is money sent every month for your family maintenance. And we are a big player in that. I also look at that business apart from the global Indian banking business. And traditionally, how we used to do, and over the years, if somebody wants to send an Indian staying in Canada, for example, or US, wants to send money back to his family in India, it would typically take around 3 to 4 days to send money through a normal banking channel. And some of these requirements are real and immediate. I mean, you have a family member in hospital, you want to send money. The intent is not to send money through an incorrect channel, it's to send money through a banking channel, but you can't send. I mean, it takes 4 days. If you're unfortunate, you are on a weekend, it will take 2 more days more. So that's something, obviously, we are a large player in this market, and that was a need. We see it was coming out from the customer's point of view. I met Ripple a couple of years back, and when I heard of this solution, I said, I mean, if there is anything which can satisfy this need, more from a customer's point of view. And India today has a local clearing which is instant. Very few countries has it. India has it since last 3 years. So if I have to pay to anybody in India on a Sunday, it takes just 1 second to send a local payment. And we wanted to replicate this in the cross-border payment. And that is where the drive to do something and work with Ripple on that. It took some time, obviously. We have partners, and I think what I've been hearing with everybody, I mean, the first step is a lot of people thought Ripple and Bitcoins and blockchain and distributed ledger are all same. The first thing is obviously to sell this internally within the bank and your compliance team. And that takes some time. Obviously, people tend to believe in what they have read somewhere. So we have cleared that hurdle. We signed Ripple 8 months back now. We approach our regulators. So we had first round of discussion with the regulators. While technically this does not need to go to a regulator, because we said we'll look at the crypto at a later stage. We are looking at the messaging at this point of time. But on the safer side, we said let's go and brief the Reserve Bank of India, which is our regulator. They found okay. We have a follow-up meeting next week, but I think we should be able to sort that out. And India being a large inward corridor, I mean, $70 billion is a huge market. UAE to India, for example, is $10 billion every year. US to India is $10 billion plus every year. UK to India is another $4 billion. So we have partners now through the Ripple network working with us. So we are trying to work with 2 banks, one in Middle East, one in Europe, and hopefully one in this part of the world and UK shortly, to see how we can instantaneously, I mean, you can reduce the turnaround time for the customers. So it's been a good journey. Our IT, our compliance team have been comfortable with this solution, so that gives, so I'm from a business point of view, but that gives a lot of confidence for us. And we've taken some amount of customer feedback on this, and they are excited to see this launch because it's something which there was a necessity and a need, and we are happy to work with Ripple on this, take this forward.
Super, thank you, and some very, very good summaries of the experience working with Ripple, and also I just want to call out and the fact that these are real deployments. This is real corridors that our colleagues, our partners are standing up with Ripple, and it's the contact that really makes the difference between the theory and having something tangible, robust and industrial. You've probably got lots of questions, and we'd love to hear them. We will hear them. Let's open the floor to questions for the panel. Gentleman at the back.
Hi. Over the past 2 days, we have heard a lot of banks using RippleNet and ILP. I'm quite interested to know what are the drivers and restraints in adopting XRP as a bridge currency, and what's your timeline in the future?
Anybody want to answer the question?
I can start. We see no demand for the crypto currency itself. It's the messaging that is the important thing. Customers are hesitant, and as I said, we primarily have tested this across the corporate segment. Why go for something that is not a necessity right now? And we have not gone into exchanging currencies yet in the platform. So that's basically the customer need that is lacking.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, and I would second that. I think there's most people would recognise there's a utility. There's a utility at some point with resolution of that, but you have to separate the discussion. There's a benefit that we can get here and today by implementing the technology. There is not a clear runway into land yet with regards to a digital crypto bridging currency. And I guess, the question is not a technical discussion. The question is much more complex than that, and it's to do with regulation. It's to do with different regimes as well. And so this is, I guess, we're not quite, ready to make that jump yet. We see that, the speed, the depth of integration and bringing around customer propositional benefits is here today, and that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, from the MUFG perspective, also we are segregate payments messaging solution as well as cryptocurrency. So now we are running another POC within MUFG to issuing a digital currency called MUFG coin in Japan. It's pegging to Japanese yen. Because since in Japan, so many people are thinking Bitcoin is for just speculation or investment, not for payment. So that is the reason why we are thinking another alternative of the cryptocurrency pegging to Japanese yen for payment, Japanese domestic. But in terms of cross-border payment, the messaging is another pain point for us. So we are trying to focusing on this part.
So our view on crypto, a lot of regulators are still not clear on crypto. So very few regulators have come out with a formal policy. Banks do not want to be on the wrong side of the regulation and start working on cryptocurrency when the regulators come back saying, while we see a future in crypto, but it's some time away. I think regulators are trying to get a hang of crypto. Hopefully most countries will have some regulations around crypto in the next 2-3 years. I think that is a good time, and we are speaking here about cross-border regulation, so it is not one regulator. We have to be mindful that it is between 2 countries, so there are 2 regulators involved here and 2 banks. So it's more complex, and I think the use today without crypto is also good enough to start off. There's a decent value proposition to start off, and obviously crypto would add once there is more clarity.
Thank you. You good? Any thoughts?
Right.
Else it's okay.
In addition to the things, gentlemen, ladies, talking about XRP, but in our case, the Ripple's concept of the liquidity provider attracted us. With the community expands, it should, in theory, brought the competitiveness in the exchanging for the sake of the customers. So we have just started with Thailand last July, and I said it was quick, and it is true. And being quick is good for customers, but also to our employees at the settlement department, so they can work very stress-free. But on top of that, I'm really hoping the community of the Ripple platform expands to produce a very competitive exchange opportunity for the sake of our customers. So if I can add something, this is it.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, please? More questions from the audience? Gentleman at the front. There's a mic coming your way now. If you want to give a second, or yours.
Thank you. Does your central banks from each jurisdiction has defined a limit of the value of each payment cross-border? Or is unlimited, the amount?
And no, we are not bank, so we are so-called money transferers. So in our case, per transaction, maximum amount is 10,000 yen, which is around $9,000 at current rate. But the banks, I believe, there's no controlled amount or constraints. Just the money transferers in Japan.
No, for us, it's a technology platform that we are using, and we've done quite a thorough compliance work, and the regulators don't see, it's blockchain being used for payments, so there is no limit whatsoever that we can use. Right now, we are using it for internal purposes, so we have the same legal entity on both sides, but there is no such thing as a restriction, and I guess we don't, typically go with the technology to the regulator and ask, can we use HTTP or anything else? Yeah. So no limit for us as far as I know.
Yeah, and I just echo the same for our conversations in the UK. Lots of conversations, lots of awareness, lots of discussion, so that the roadmap's quite clear, but there's been no discussion about limitations. No. Technology.
So India is slightly different in this case. So India has limits, and India has different limits. So there is no limit if it is a bank-to-bank transfer. But if the money is coming from a MSB or an exchange house, then there are caps and there are limits. If there is cash on either end, then there are caps on limit. But if it is a bank-to-bank transfer inward into India, there are no limits.
More thoughts? Very, very fair. Thank you for the feedback. That's super. Time, I think, for a couple of more questions. More questions, please.
I have a question here. So when I talk to big banks, they tend to say that the actual payment transaction is the least of their problems. They have very large KYC and AML teams flying around to validate corporates. They have extensive KYC and AML processes for individuals. When I talk to smaller banks, they say that the rules favor the big banks because they can't afford a big compliance department or there are no utilities to essentially outsource KYC and AML activities too. So from a Santander perspective and from an Indian perspective and from other perspectives, do you see this changing? Because to me, this is the biggest obstacle, one of the biggest obstacles in the progress towards a better payments planet.
So if you ask me honestly, there are 2 things in the payments which take a lot of time and bandwidth for a bank. One is obviously AML compliance. Second is reconciliation. And what we are trying to achieve from Ripple is to reduce that bit of reconciliation. AML compliance will obviously continue, and it's an evolving area where there are new technologies coming in also into AML compliance. So a lot of that is happening in real time at this point of time. But screening will continue. There's a cross-border payment, so there are AML checks which the bank is supposed to do. There is still a lot of money laundering happening globally, so it is the responsibility of the bank to check what type of payment is coming. So that will continue. But what it solves, and the other bit where banks have huge amount of teams doing reconciliation, hopefully technology should solve that, and that is where I think Ripple should come into play, where we do not start maintaining a mirror nostro. So today, cross-border payments, every bank has a mirror nostro. You reconcile at the end of the day with your nostro, you have your own mirror nostro. And that is when you then actually, while the money is with you, you don't pay out to the beneficiary unless you reconcile. Now, if that can be resolved, then you cut off a lot of delay there.
Yeah, no, I think, the regulation, the compliance, and the like is as thorough as it is with existing payments, and so there hasn't necessarily been a big change in that area. Whether that could change in the future, that's I think much more a discussion for the community within Ripple as well, and how the RippleNet Limited and the scheme and how those rules operate could provide some benefits in that space. But today, I think we're taking tentative steps in this space, and so we're getting the benefit from the technology. We're able to enhance some of the real-timeness of the transactions. We're able to offer much more real-time pricing and FX rates to customers, and so that's where the big focus has been. I think these are future considerations.
Okay, from MUFG perspective, so there's two considerations. One is operation perspective. So as you mentioned, so in addition to the operation or reconciliation, so it is very big burden to manage corresponding banking accounts. We have thousands of accounts of corresponding banks, so we need to manage the balance or liquidities. So still, our current technology cannot resolve these issues. Still is a big burden for us. And in terms of anti-money laundering, so I don't think this kind of payment solution can resolve that compliance issue. So when we have a lot of false positive in the transaction monitoring. So to clear that, we need to implement other technology like artificial intelligence or something. That is my view.
Any more thoughts on that one? So it's one to look at as things evolve and develop. I think we're quite close to the end of the session. Do we have time for one more question?
No, I think that'll be it. Unfortunately, Marcus, I think we are unfortunately out of time.
Okay. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you, my colleagues, for joining the stage. And
thanks to Marcus, Hirofumi, Nuobu, Richard, Paul, and Dharmesh. Thank you very much for your time. One more picture. So, I have to say on behalf of my Ripple colleagues, we're grateful to our partners for being here today, but also being on the journey that they've been on with us over the last year or so that you've heard. I mean, they're truly innovative, identifying real customer pain points, and thankfully with us coming up with solutions that allow, faster, accurate transactions. So, it's just the start, but hugely thankful for them being here and working with us to date. One more hand for the panel, please. Thank you. All right, so we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back at 4 o'clock. It'll be the last panel of the day, and the title's going to be The Future of Blockchain. So back here at 4 o'clock. See you then.
Whatever goes through your head, secret sorrow gets me down.